experience. There are some things that people experience so that you won't have to experience. Some people take bumps and bruises that you don't have to take those same bumps and bruises. I want you to understand today, my brothers and sisters, that life operates in cycles. Life operates in cycles, stages, and seasons. Life comes full circle sometimes before you even realize it. And it depends on what cycle you're in, what you're able to do for God. Even in the spirit realm, there are cycles. There are cycles of abundant blessings. There are cycles of being downtrodden. There are cycles of healings and deliverance. There is a cycle for your very salvation, and that God knew that when you got around to that place, that salvation was going to be offered, and he knew your choice, whether it be yea or nay, to that particular offer. So life works in seasons, stages, and even in cycles. That's why God warns us, the day you hear my voice, harden not your heart. Or the day you feel me say, do this, go there, and do that, harden not your heart, but move when I admonish you to move. Because you don't have all of your life to contemplate your next move in God. You don't have all of your life to contemplate, I'm going to get saved on this day. I'm going to give my life to the Lord on this day. I'm going to stop smoking on this day. I'm going to stop sleeping with this man on this day. I'm going to stop doing this on that day. You don't have all of your life to determine what it is you're going to do for God. He said, the day you hear my voice, harden not your heart. Or in other words, when God speaks, it's time for you to move. Because if you don't, you will miss what God has for you, and you will have to go around in a circle until you cycle back all over again on what it is you missed at the beginning. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? Life works in seasons and in cycles. Even the galaxies and the heavens and the sun, moon, and stars and the earth and the atmosphere, even seasons work in cycles. Spring cycles into summer. Summer cycles into fall. Fall cycles into winter. When a seed is planted into the ground, there is a cycle and a season before it brings forth fruit. After it brings forth fruit, there's a cycle and a season to where it's going to wither away and die, and it's going to start all over again on that same cycle. So everything operates in cycles. The particular thing about Christianity is that we have the benefit of controlling the cycles that happen in our lives to a certain degree. Now, I must warn you that it does not matter how good you live. It doesn't matter how clean you plumb the line. It doesn't matter if you give to the poor and feed the sick, or no matter what you do, if you give away everything that you have and you walk this Christian life perfect, every now and then you are going to go through problems. Amen. I know they don't tell you that anymore, that you confess it and you can have it. If you believe it, then you can receive it. But I'm here to tell you that every now and then you will suffer loss. You will be persecuted. Every now and then God has to make sure, and you have to make sure, that your calling is sure. You have to make sure that you are who you say you are. And we will not order our lives into traumas and transitions. So God orders our steps. Because the steps of a righteous man are ordered by the Lord. Because a life without seasons will lead you to high treason. And that if you never had trials in your life, you would assume that you got it all together. You would assume that you're at the epitome of your Christian development, and there's nothing else you can learn, nothing else anybody can teach you. So every now and then, God allows for seasons and cycles to abound in our lives. But if you do all that you can do, God will make sure that you're blessed exceedingly, abundantly, and above all that you can ask or even think. And the enemy hates it when you're in a cycle of blessings. The enemy hates to see Christians prosper even as their soul prospers. Have you noticed that every time you get a breakthrough, every time something good happens in your life, that the enemy or even God sometimes will allow for a hater to come your way? Every time you get blessed, especially when you're not supposed to be blessed, especially when you don't have the education to be blessed, that the enemy will come, send somebody in your path to let you know who you really are, to let you know where it is that you came from. Have you ever noticed that when you're blessed, that there is always that something in the back of your mind, that something is going to take that blessing from you? Oh, I know I'm in the house today. I don't have to say anything. But have you ever been blessed and was worried about holding on to that blessing? Have you ever gotten something from God and you hid it so that anybody wouldn't know you had it? Have God ever given you a monetary blessing and you know that everybody's going to start calling, so you don't tell anybody, you just got your income tax check? I'm going to preach till I get a witness. Have you ever been blessed and you felt like you had to hide that blessing because you knew the enemy was coming because you don't deserve to have what it is that you have? The enemy hates for you to be blessed. He will do all that he can to try to get you to focus on your famine, that you don't focus on the abundance that you have. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? So what he does is he downloads and he saves all of your past sins. See, the enemy knows every time you've messed up. And he knows that he can play around in your mind sometimes. So he saves those traumas that have gone on in your life. And when you're walking in your season of blessing, he will bring that sin to the forefront and say, remember you did this. Remember you said that. You really don't deserve what it is you have there because you have unconfessed sin in your life. He tries to get you, lure you out of the covering of God so that you can come outside and play. And then when you come back into the covering, it's too late. I had a dream years ago. I was trying to get my life together. I was trying to stop the riotous living. I was trying to stop smoking and drinking and partying and all of that stuff. And I knew that God was calling me. I knew he was, but I could not stop what it was that I was doing. And God allowed for me to have a dream. Now, this was one of the most real dreams I've ever had in all of my life, and that I was getting dressed to come to church, had on a white robe, got all the way to the door of the church, about to open the door and come in, and then someone tapped me on my shoulder, and it was a peculiar looking creature. And I began to play with the creature and began to talk to the creature. And the more I talked to the creature and the more I played with the creature, the more interesting the creature became to me. Right at the door of the church, I was talking to him, playing with him. And before I knew it, the sun was going down. I was still playing with the creature and the sun was going down. And I said, man, I look at what happened to the time. And I shook myself loose from the creature and I turned around to open the door of the church and go in, and I did not have on my white suit any longer. I turned around to go into the church and I was butt naked trying to go into the church. And when I opened the door, the guardian or the usher of the church said, you can't come in because you're not dressed to come into this wedding ceremony. God told me that what happened, I showed you what was going to happen if you didn't go on and get your life together. That I was trying to dress you in righteousness. I was trying to get you ready for when the Lord returns. But if you continue to play with that peculiar creature called sin, by the time you turn around, you're not going to have on that white robe. And anybody found in the wedding ceremony, when God marries the church, he's going to kick them out and cast them into outer darkness. My brothers and sisters, if you are playing around with sin today, don't take it for granted that God is going to accept you. Don't take it for granted that once you're saved, you're always saved. Don't take it for granted because you don't know God's measuring rod. God says that where sin abounds, grace much more abounds. But that means that sin still does abound. But shall we continue in sin that the grace of God should still abound? He says, God forbid. So don't play around with sin because you're dressed up in righteousness now. Don't be dabbling in and out of sin thinking that God is going to wink and turn his head away. God showed me that we can play with sin, We can touch on sin and it becomes interesting to us. And before we know it, the sun will be going down on our existence. Now, I'm not here to proclaim judgment on whether God will or will not accept you.